Welcome to the Growth Leaders Podcast. Today, we have a distinguished guest, Thomas P. Wilson, Vice President and Global Contract Manufacturing Leader at Pfizer Center One, a top contract development and manufacturing organization in the pharmaceutical industry that plays a pivotal role in the production of high-quality pharmaceuticals worldwide. We'll explore his journey, insights on pharma manufacturing trends, global supply chain management challenges, and his vision for the industry's and leaders' future. Join us for an inspiring and enlightening conversation. Welcome, Tom.
Oh, it's just delightful to be here, Peter. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. So I would like to start with congratulations, you and your team, for the Pfizer Center One win on the CDMO Contract Development Manufacturing Organization Leadership Awards for 2024. And for the listeners, this is a prestigious honor to the team, and it's a testament for trust and satisfaction where the customers actually given the complete feedback. And what I see here is that you have 6 category wins, and that is for your capabilities, compatibility, expertise, quality, reliability, and service. In addition, you also have individual awards for accessibility to senior management, which is just a great thing, innovation, on-time delivery, reputation, right for the first time, and who makes that always? State of the art, and strength of science. So, Tom, how do you do this?
Well,
It's a big question.
boy, I wish there was like a magic wand I could wave. No, I think it's more about understanding that that our customers are people, our client partners are people, and that they are looking to solve real challenges, right? So what we do is we set a baseline for our interactions with our folks, and that baseline is that there's a patient at the end of everything that we do, right? Every single action that we take has a patient that's counting on us. And once we work with our client partners to help them understand that we believe that just as they do, and that we're just as interested in those patients at the end, it gives us common ground to work from. Once you have that as your common basis, challenges that come up have to be solved, right? It makes a difference. You know, Pfizer's motto right now is time is life, and it's just so critical, right? We've just got to get those medicines out there as effectively, efficiently, and properly as possible.
This is clearly not what I call a one-man show. So how many guys and girls, men and women, are you in your organization at Center One?
So Center One, I think we have to step back just a moment and talk about how Center One is configured. We're not your common pharmaceutical contract development manufacturing organization, CDMO. We are what's called an integrated CDMO, and there are very few of us that operate in this model. Other companies that have this model include AbbVie, Boehringer Ingelheim, and Novartis. So what we do is we do not have our own dedicated manufacturing facilities. We do not have our own dedicated development facilities. We actually leverage the available capabilities of the actual Pfizer facilities. So when a client partner comes to us with their medicine, we actually put it in the same work centers or in the same development labs that the Pfizer products are going through at the same time. So what this presents to the client partner is the opportunity to get the A-team, right? They get our best and brightest. The same people are working to bring Pfizer innovations to patients are working to bring their innovations to patients. We like to call this collaborative innovation.
That is,
when we say how many people it is, right? So getting back to the people. So on the commercial side, we only have 43 people worldwide. And that includes the sales team, that's the account management team, that's our marketing team. But when you get into the actual people that are serving as operators, analysts, development scientists, etc. We calculate roughly 6,000 people across Pfizer's organization that support our customers and support bringing their medicines to patients.
I need to make a jump because this sounds like a super interesting organizational development, which is a lot about networking within the organization, collaboration, and so. Do you run profit centers in here, or because somewhere, if we look a little bit at the old school, and I guess that most likely viable still, you will have to see where and what generates, the cost and the revenues and so on. And of course, if it's always free capacity, then it's always a win in the total. But sometimes I guess there's overcapacity, or too little capacity as such. So how does that operate without getting into any confidential pieces here?
Yeah, no, it's actually quite straightforward. So Pfizer operates a standalone manufacturing division and a standalone pharmaceutical sciences division, right? So they operate as cost centers within Pfizer. And they generate cost structures for Pfizer products and for our client partners products, which then move over to the commercial P&L, right? And that's where cost of goods gets generated within the P&L, which allows you to understand what your top line sales are. You reduce your cost of goods, your SG&A, and then you get to your net margin, right? So when we do it as Pfizer Center One, when we generate a proposal for an opportunity, we work very closely with the manufacturing division, with the site that we would be placing it at, or with the pharmaceutical sciences division and the sites that we would be placing the work at. Understand what their cost proposal would be, and then we then work to make sure that we put an appropriate margin on that. And then that's what we go to market with. And I think we've got really great market insight as to what the average selling price is for the various services and how that'll work. And Pfizer Center One's been in existence for almost 50 years, so we're pretty well versed in what we do. But to start with, we are prohibited by policy from overselling our capacity. And that does differentiate us from our competitors, right? Our competitors are counting on an attrition rate, and that attrition rate is well understood within the pharmaceutical industry. But we operate without the attrition rate assumption. And our senior leadership's logic, which I am thankful for, is that we would rather see capacity go unutilized than a patient go without their medicine. So we're very cautious about how we make sure that we do not want to run the risk of a patient not getting the medicine that they need when they need it.
Well, that's great to know about. So coming back then to the leadership side, it's one thing getting a team of 43, and then we're going to get back to building the teams a little bit. But the other 5,957 people, or whatever it may be, getting them also aligned with those objectives, because clearly you have senior objectives internally, but there is something special also when you work with external clients and not only the internal clients. And most likely you have to come back to the individuals to really represent each and every one, but there has to be someone setting the standard. So how do you work with that?
So great question. So first of all, we're blessed with amazing leadership within Pfizer, right? And being 175 years old, we've got long traditions of leadership and developing our leaders and building our leaders internally. Pfizer's manufacturing network and its development network are segmented by their technical modality. Right, and by technical modality, it's what I mean is their technologies are specialized, and so if we look at solid oral dose, right, so tablets and capsules, We have 4 global sites that do that, right? 4 out of the 38 or so sites that we have. So first of all, when somebody comes to us with a product, so now you've narrowed the playing field down and what people are specialized in. The people that work at those sites are incredibly skilled scientists, engineers, technicians, right? So they really understand their technology. Then you start to get into, as we look across that, we try and understand who at the different plants has the ability to truly be customer facing, has that ability to relate to the customer on an individual basis and represent that customer appropriately, but represent Pfizer as well, right? And we like to think that that's the first step in customer centricity, right? Now, there could be 10, 20, 30 people that interact with a customer at any given point on the customer's journey to getting their product to market. So what we also do is we appoint, it's their job to pull together the right folks on behalf of the client partner, on behalf of the customer, to make sure that we are having the right conversations with the right people at the right time. And we work really hard to make sure that we don't change the representative to a given company, right? Because they build a rapport, they build a trust, right? They build a relationship, and they each begin to really understand not only what the other is saying, but what they're thinking, right? And it can anticipate challenges, but also can anticipate opportunities, right? And we think that that's really critical.
That reminds me that in my previous life that then we were working for IBM, and there you had those client execs, and they were the guys and girls who really knew IBM inside out, all positions, but the same on the customer side, and made exactly what you're describing here. And I think it's a pivotal role for the customer to have that, and also see, when there are new things coming up, new opportunities, and drive the client forward. So that's
I think
really
the other advantage that we have there, Peter, is because of Pfizer's long history and where it's located, and the way that we commit to the communities that we locate within. People come to Pfizer still to this day for a career. And I have children in their 20s, I'm very well aware of, how careers are looked at now as more, you step through various companies on your personal journey. We still are big enough and have enough opportunity across the global network to give people the opportunity to have their entire career here in one company. So again, that gives us people with staying power for the client partners, and also they've come up through the ranks, so they know how to get things done within Pfizer, and they're quite nimble and agile when it comes to an organization of our size.
So when you started as heading the Center 1 at Pfizer, I know you put together your own team. What was your thinking doing that? What were the critical, ingredients to get a great team, which we see you're succeeding with also?
So first, I had a great boss who allowed me to do what I thought was the right thing, which, her name's Joelle Silva. She was amazing. She is amazing. She's still with Pfizer doing great things for Pfizer. But she gave me a lot of latitude. My previous work history, before I was on the sell side of contract manufacturing, I was actually on the buy side of contract manufacturing. So I really had developed some pretty strong impressions and opinions as to how I would have liked to have been treated, how I would have liked to have been able to work with contract manufacturers. So I was able to put all of that into effect. So first we set out a vision. This is what we want to accomplish. This is how we want to do business. This is what we want as a culture. This is the messaging that we want to go forward with. This is the degree of just being trustworthy and honest that we wanted to do. Then when we looked at when we brought people on board, The first thing that typically you do is you do the skills assessment, right? Do I have the right people with the right skills across the board? So the second thing we did was we used two programs, one called Insights, which is more recent for us, but at the very beginning we used Herman Brain, where we really assessed people's personality types and comfort zones, both in normal day-to-day operations, but also under stress. And what we wanted to do there was not just create a balanced team across technologies, but also create a balanced team in terms of people's EQ, how they interact with different people, with different customers. And that gave us a second dimension balance for our ability to go out into the workforce, right?
Yeah.
The third thing we looked at was experience, right? How do we build a blend of experiences, and looking at people from a diversity of skills and experiences and personal journeys that they've been on. That was our third dimension. So there we looked at people who'd come up through the manufacturing division, but also came in through the sciences division, came in through medical affairs to really create that third dimension, which was, again, just a broad, diverse team of people. So now what we have is three dimensions of people that bring a wealth of technological skills, of emotional, their EQ capabilities, their emotional balance, and then their experience and agilities that they bring to the table. We tried to map all of that. We didn't try, we did. We mapped all of that to make sure that we created as well balanced a team as we could, so that when we do interface with a client partner, that we are trying to be as complete in our approach to them as we can be.
And that includes the cultural pieces also in the diversity, I presume. So if we look back here, you've had a long history here, and if we look back to the learnings of basic leadership and importance of leadership, taking decisions, where did you learn those basics which you have built upon moving forward in your career and in your life?
So twofold. I was in the Boy Scouts here in the U.S., and then after I graduated, I joined the United States Air Force. So both of those are very leadership-oriented, leadership development organizations. So, in the Boy Scouts, it was hand-on, right? Learning things like, basic points of leadership, which are more around logistics, right? How do you plan logistics out? How do you organize and coordinate things to achieve common purpose? And how do you keep everybody moving in that direction, right? It's here on the team in Pfizer Center 1, I like to call it taking a punch, right? We have the ability to take a punch and either, deflecting it a little bit or getting back up off the mat. And then once I got out of the service, I moved into a frontline leadership role within pharmaceutical manufacturing. So a frontline supervisor, working with the operators, working with the scientists, working with the quality analysts, day in and day out. Again, leading them to achieve what could be done, overcoming challenges, making sure that everybody was pulling together in the same direction. Right, that really set the tone for me of not just that you have to get people to do that and to buy into that, but that people feel empowered and really, really contributing when they're doing that and they achieve that, and when they can look around and see what they've achieved. That just becomes the circle of goodness, right? It just keeps going up and up and up.
We see today now in Sweden, where we are here today, as joint NATO, we're working more and more together with the U.S. military and so on. And I'm an older Royal Marine, and what we learned there, which you are talking about a lot, because we were working in groups of 7, and we were always given the objective. That's it. And then we have the team to find out how to solve it. And I think that those are very, very important lessons that the delegation, have a clear objective, what we want to achieve, and then actually have the trust that people actually do solve things, which I do. Patients and let them ask whenever they need to. So that's great. Yeah. And then there's another question here which is coming up. What color is your parachute? Tell you.
So what a great tool. And to this day, I still
Maybe you
tell
should tell,
people,
maybe you should tell what color is your parachute, because I don't think everyone knows, even though it's one of the most sold books. Please go ahead.
yeah, no, part of me wonders if it's still out there. And when we're done here, I'm actually going to have to. Is it okay?
It is indeed, and it's coming up in different versions for colleges, etc., etc. So some diversification, but it's still there, and it's selling a lot still.
Wow, that's fantastic to hear. So, what color is your parachute? When I got out of the service after 10 years in the Air Force, there was what they called the Transition Assistance Program, right, which was to help us move from a military lifestyle to a civilian lifestyle, and really help understand what the non-military world was. And the military has a really unique culture, a really unique way of approaching things, as you would know from being a Royal Marine. So really having to figure that out. So one of the things that was recommended was working through the exercises and the self-analysis tools that are in this book called What Color's Your Parachute? And What Color's Your Parachute? The goal of this was to figure out where you had a natural affinity, what your calling was, right? Where you could find career paths that really were ideal for you, that would make you excited to get out of bed every morning. It was great. So I worked through the exercises, and what I found was that in particular, I was called to two career pathways. One was manufacturing, right? The other pathway for me was to be a farmer. And not that there's anything wrong with farming. There's not at all. I just didn't see myself as a farmer. So I really dug into manufacturing, and the more I dug into it, the more I found that pharmaceuticals really called to me, right? That this was something that really appealed to me at my very core. So here I am, 31 years later, still doing pharmaceutical manufacturing. Now, actually, I'm selling pharmaceutical manufacturing. So I get to sell what I love. I get to sell what I'm really proud of. I get to sell what I think makes a difference in the world every day. Man, what a great reason to get out of bed in the morning.
There is nothing better than waking up every morning. Yes, another day. That's beautiful. But if we reflect on today, I have a notion that there's a lot of youngsters today who actually are really figuring out, and they don't really find the way, what they want to do, what they want to try, where they want to head, and it goes a little bit around circles. Is that something? I mean, you have youngsters too. Is that something you have been reflecting upon today when you see, because it has happened a lot in the last 30 years here, and there are a lot of people in the 20s who are not knowing where they're heading. And of course, we didn't all do that either all the time, but how to move that forward. That's a personal reflection. I don't know if you have thought about this.
I do. Boy, in my day, the most irritating question that you could get in an interview was, where do you see yourself in 5 years? It's like, if you had told me that my career was going to follow this trajectory, yeah, none of it was on my bingo card, right? There was no crystal ball back then. But I do think that if you know what motivates you at the core, right, what are the things that motivate you, but also can allow you to generate personal value, and personal value on a monetary basis as well as on an intellectual basis, because you kind of need both, right? It's you there are people that live to work, but most people work to live. The other thing I really like is not being afraid to explore things, right? Meet people and just try and understand what they do and how they do it, and how does that generate value, and does that trigger an interest for you? We are truly blessed in this era where, with technology, information, well, data is immediately at hand, right? You can read all kinds of things on the internet, but you need to talk to people that are actually, doing things in those spaces to understand what that means, right? What are they actually doing? And when you talk to people, that's when you get better insight. You're not going to get all of that just cruising the internet. It's getting out there and meeting people, and there's lots of ways to meet people. And there are various professional organizations that you can get involved in. There's things like the Chamber of Commerce luncheons, right? 30 years later, I'm still going to Chamber of Commerce luncheons because I get to hear speakers get up there and talk about things, right? And you get to learn about people. And I think that's the other thing is, be curious. People love to talk about themselves. So ask questions, be interested, be curious about them, and let them share their journey with you. That to me is how you can try and pick it. Now, how that's worked for my kids. My son is a chemical engineer. He works for Merck. We're really proud of him, even though he works for the competition. But that's okay. My daughter's in law school, right? So she's trying to figure out what type of law calls to her. So she's met with a lot of different lawyers in different disciplines, whether it's litigation, intellectual property, corporate affairs, mergers and acquisitions, to really figure out what calls to her. But it's that same thing. It's be curious, ask a lot of questions, ask people what they do and how that lights your fire.
Yeah, and I think those are great advices. The curiosity, the motivation, what motivates you, and learn. And that is very well talking to people. Let's have one final question here. And that is really, many of our listeners are leaders to come and leaders on a journey. What advice would you like to give them on their journey? Becoming better and great leaders.
Yeah, so a few things, right? First of all, appreciate and enjoy the journey, right? If I look back at when I was a frontline supervisor, I was doing one of the coolest jobs I've ever done. Didn't know it at the time. And I wish I had, right? I wish I had, wasn't just focused on advancing and moving up, but that I was enjoying that step. But I missed the opportunity to enjoy that step, and that is a regret. Being very honest, that is a regret, right? So enjoy the journey. The next thing I would do is there's lots. Work by its very nature is difficult, right? If there weren't challenges, if there weren't things to be overcome, then why would they need us, right? So recognizing that we're all working together to overcome challenges, it's easy to get caught up in the moment or get caught up in the challenge and forget the human aspect. So the next thing I would say is when you're working with people, assume good intent. Everybody really is trying to do the right thing and make the right difference, right? There aren't people, I just don't believe there's people that get out of bed every morning and say, today I'm going to make a mess of this. I just simply can't believe that, right? So everybody's trying. Everybody has something to contribute. So trying to figure that out and how to get in there. So assume good intent is the second thing. And then I'd say the third thing is do not rule out an unusual opportunity when it comes along, right? So it's, again, the journey that brought me here to this role was not a mapped journey in any way, right? I was on my mapped journey when I was working in the brick and mortar plants. From there, I was supposed to move to Philadelphia to work in a strategy role. Instead, I ended up on a modest duration assignment in Singapore, right? Just because I was available to go, and I Yeah, okay, fine. I'll go to Singapore. The rest of the pharmaceutical industry was all focused on being in Europe in general and Ireland in particular. Here I was in Singapore. Man, the experience I had there, the growth and the learnings that I had there really helped set the tone and tenor for my overall career. And then coming back, different opportunities came up, right? I had a chance, like I said, to work in Philadelphia, work in Virginia, but also to work in India, to work in Ireland. Um,
That is
None of
really
those were
taking the chat.
met.
No, that's really what, when the train stops at the station, have a deep look if that's the train you should actually jump on. When I speak to so many people, I can hear that those guys and girls, yeah, it came in and I jumped on it. And now I'm on a new journey. And it's interesting. Of course, it reflects also a little bit on the risk taking, risk adversity. But you also mentioned another thing which I would like to reflect upon, and that is those jobs you normally have early on. And as one of the jobs I had was being account manager early on. And when I look back, and then I became a sales and marketing director, and then I became a managing director and went higher. And the higher you get up in the organization, the lonelier you are, the fewer you have to talk to, are able to talk to with your own thinking. And when I look back, those were really where you have most out of it with other people, with the customer, you have the parties, you have everything there. And that disappears. You get another type of decision making and sometimes harsh decision making, which affects organizations without really being there. So enjoy your journey. Tom, great talking to you, and congrats to all what you're achieving, and great having you here on Growth Leaders podcast. Thank you so much, Tom.
This has been so much fun, Peter. Thank you for having me, and thank you for taking me back on this journey. This has been great.
Thanks.